plumbing that I was working on. I completed the plumbing, I did a water test, everything was running fine, I did some timing on the pumps, things like that. Everything's going great. So what I'm doing right now is I finally got the sand, and I've got the salt, and I'm right now breaking down all my plumbing on my tank, which is a good exercise to see if I can break it down for service and maintenance, which obviously I can. I've got the pumps, the sump, everything out from underneath. It's all nice and clean. Minimal water drippage while I was taking it apart, which is good. This floor, by the way, for that is awesome. It captures a lot of the water. Underneath it is concrete, so it'll dry nicely. Nothing ruined. No water anywhere. Great. So, what's the next step? Okay. Well, I've got to clean the glass, clean the inside, make sure it's all good. I got a couple of stray pieces of silicone from when I re-siliconed the tank. Don't mind the towel, I've got that up there so you can see what I'm talking about and not through to the other side. As you can see, that the tank, by the way, full of water, stood solid on this stand. It never moved, it never shifted. I never had to readjust it, which is good. But my next step so far will be pull the tank back a bit, clean the glass on the outside. I'm going to paint the outside a dark blue color, similar to the walls we got in the house, close enough to a black to make me happy. Then I'm going to start filling her up with sand and start working on the rock work. So we'll see how it goes. And then for those of you who are interested, here are the 2 holes that I drilled in the glass. These were done with a glass hole saw supplied by glassholes.com, where I got the overflow kit from. And those holes are big enough to accommodate 2 2-inch bulkheads, and that's where those screw into. So that's it so far. Let's see how it goes. I'll be working on this weekend, sort of my Father's Day present. And for those of you who are curious, who might be married and wondering if your wife lets you get away with this stuff, what is she exactly letting you get away with? Let me show you what all the plumbing and everything looks like taken apart. Spread all over the bathroom. I'm not letting her see this, so we'll just pretend like it never happened, right? Don't tell anybody. And you can see I've got it just about everywhere, so have to give a big shout out to my wife for putting up with this stuff. But pretty soon it'll all be back in the tank. It'll be running with salt water, and we'll be in the midst of cycling, which will be several weeks of nothing major to report. But
okay, so plumbing is done. Back of the tank is painted. And let's go over what my plumbing looks like when it's all together, because I think you guys have not seen that yet. We'll go over everything that I have and what I've done so far. So, back of the tank. I painted it a lot lighter of a color than I was originally intending to do. The reason for that was I saw a video a while ago from Practical Fish Keeping, and I'll put a link down in the description if you want to go see it. But it was a saltwater tank, a planted saltwater tank that had a much lighter background. In fact, I don't even think it was a background. I think it was the wall color behind it of the guy's place. Not sure. But either way, I liked it a lot. It was very different from sort of your typical blue background or black background, which I was originally planning on doing. And so I decided to replicate it. And to me, it actually turned out much nicer. It looks like a much more distant light blue that you see in the ocean than the dark blue of the deeper ocean. So, you know, I'm kind of really happy with it. And the added bonus is it reflects light a lot better, so I'm really maximizing my my light up top, which obviously that's a temporary light. That's not the light that's going to stay there, but either way. So let's take a look at the plumbing. So start with the drains, main drains. We've got 2 2-inch drains. These are the air tubes to keep the drains nice and quiet. As you can hear, or hopefully not hear, there's not a lot of noise coming out of this system. The drains are both, well, one's not running right now, but when they're both running, it's still just as quiet. The pumps are running right now, but you really can't hear them. So those 2 drains come down. This one over here is for my sump, which I have turned off right now. And this one over here feeds my 2 Iwaki pumps. And following that one down, we'll follow the pump one down first. You can see it kind of comes across inside the tank. Splits down into 2 1.5-inch Spaflex tubes, so that makes it a little easier to take everything in and out, also isolates some vibration. And then goes to the 2 pumps. Now, let's take a look at the 2 pumps. As you can see, I've got a turn-off valve here and a turn-off valve there so that I can turn off the water flow coming in and out of the tank to pull the pump and service it if I need to. Also helps in breaking down the plumbing, as you saw just a few moments ago. The sump itself, right now it's a 29-gallon aquarium. I am toying with the idea of using a 20-gallon brute. It's a little bit taller and takes up less space underneath. I'd like a little bit more space underneath the tank for future enhancements. So I'm going to try that out first, but this is the sump. I had it running and I had a filter, a little homemade filter going on there. Since I added the sand, I had a lot of sediment in the sand even though I washed it, so I wanted to try to filter some of that stuff out, but it's settled nicely. As you can see, it's still in there. I have to clean it out. Alright, so the next pipe would be the sump pipe. Now the sump pipe also feeds what's going to be my algae turf scrubber. So we can follow this down. You can see we've got a couple of different options here. We've got a tee that tees off to a 3/4 inch section, right? And that 3/4 inch section is actually going to be the tube for my algae turf scrubber. And then the remainder of it continues down into 2 inches with its own control valve down into the sump. And that's going to be the primary feed for my sump. Pretty simple plumbing, nothing major. The returns on both pumps kind of go up, around, a little blurry there, and back up to the top of the tank over the top. And then of course we've got the return itself, and then ultimately the overflow box, which you'll see again from the front, where's all the water goes. Okay. I have a temporary fountain pump acting as my sump pump. I haven't really decided, and I wasn't sure how many gallons per hour I wanted the true sump pump to be rated at. I originally thought 50 to 60 gallons an hour was going to be enough. I'm glad I waited to buy it because I think I want more like 100 to 200, maybe 300 gallons per hour, just because I want to get enough flow through the sump. So I got a really good idea without spending money and making a mistake by using something I had existing and just dialing it back until I could see what it could do. So that was good. I'm glad I didn't. Glad I waited on that one. I guess this hobby's all about patience after all, right? Everything right now is running off of a Zilla Power Center. So if you take a look at this, it's got 2 timers on it. One timer is actually a dual mode timer, which means it will run these 2 plugs first in the on position, and in the off position it'll run these 2 plugs. So it actually alternates between these 2 sets of plugs, which is great for my pumps because I'm running a gyro flow, so that means that I only have 1 pump on at any given time. So that actually works out really well. And it's not a $500 Reef automated Reef system, but it will be eventually, maybe someday, but not now. The other pumps, the other plugs are yet to be used, but these yellow ones are for this timer, and this white one is a constant. So I will use that for something. I actually have the light, when it's up and running, will be plugged into one of these. Right now I'm just turning it on and off manually. So, okay, so that's what we got so far. So let's go ahead and take a look at the front of the tank and see what's going on there. Oh, and it's not as glorious as you guys were hoping it would be, huh? Well, that's progress, right? 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So the reason why it's cloudy, for those of you who might not understand, is I added a bag of sand, and when you add the bag, there's a lot of light particulates that end up floating in the water column, and those will eventually settle. It usually takes, for those of you who might not ever do this, it usually takes a good solid 24 to 48 hours for everything to settle the first time you put it in. And then after that, if you disturb the sand bed and it raises up a cloud, it usually settles a lot faster until eventually the bacteria grow on it and weight it down, and you know, you get other rock in there and things like that. The live rock will help with that as well. But this will clarify in no time. So we'll wait a couple of minutes, and in your time it'll be a couple of seconds, in my time it'll be a couple hours, and we'll come back to this when she's cleared up a lot more. But you can see I've got the sand, first layer of sand in the bottom. That's just a cushion for the rocks. I'll be putting the rocks in next, and then once the rocks are in, we'll get back and see the semi-final landscape, rockscaped product. So, and then you guys will get a good look at that background too and see the difference. Okay, so here we are, a second or two later, through the magic of movie making. We've actually got a nice clear tank. And as you can see, it's settled nicely. It took about 24 hours. Pretty much the next morning when I woke up, it was as clear as it is now. And I guess you guys can really get a good look now at the background. You can see it's a much lighter color than I guess most people typically paint it. It's pretty spot on for what I was expecting it to be, so I'm not disappointed in it. It does a lot of reflectivity. It's got a lot of reflectivity in it from the light. The fixture that's on there now is just kind of temporary. It's one of those cheap 2-bulb fixtures that sort of comes with your fish tank when you buy it at the fish store. So not the greatest fixture, obviously, and I'm actually still getting some shimmer at the top, so I was pretty happy about that. But it's going to look nice. You can see, for comparison, the dark blue that's on there now and what a difference it is. To me, it looks a little bit better. It looks more natural, like a far off distant ocean, and it seems to look almost like a fade from the light, from the top to the bottom and where the shadows are. So I like it. It looks pretty good. I get a little bit of settlement of dust from the particulates on the returns, so I'll have to clean those off. A little bit on the overflow box, nothing major. Give the glass a general rub down. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my rock all laid out on the old garage floor. I was trying to put some rock together on the garage floor, and it really doesn't work very well. I have to tell you that putting it together on a table, if you can, is probably the best way to do it. That's about what I'm going to do. So let me talk a little bit about some of the equipment I'm going to use. I've got a nice straight edge ruler just to kind of measure things and make sure that everything's going to fit. A pair of gloves is pretty good when working with this stuff. And I've got a bucket to collect all the smaller chips that I'm breaking off as I kind of form the rock if I need to form it. Rock's all laid out, and then what I'll do is put it on this table. So let me tell you about how I set up this table. This is my work table, and what I did was I set 4 nails, right, 1 in each corner, to the exact measurement of the inside of my tank. And then I strung some string, just started here and tied it, went across there, wrapped it a couple times, so on and so forth, all the way around. And that created the frame, or the inside diameter of my tank, the area that I need to work in with the rock. So obviously that's going to give me a really good understanding of how big my rock structure is. If I built it outside of this box, I might make it too big, or it might be too close to the glass. So I'll get a good feel for the depth of the rock fixture as I'm making it. So how am I using it? How am I putting this together? A lot of people recommended, so I went with JB Water Weld. It's perfectly safe for drinking water. It's potable. So it will work just fine. A lot of people recommended it. I bought 2 tubes just to have enough, since I want to do some pretty high fixtures. And basically it's a putty. You just knead it together and put the rocks on top of it and let it set. I think it's sets in 25 minutes and cures in an hour, so that I'll be able to work pretty quickly on this stuff. I've also got a small tack hammer, which actually doubles as my rock hammer. It's small enough that I can chip away pieces of it. If you have a rock hammer, great. I don't. I wasn't going to go buy one just for this. And I guess these are just my leftover nails. You can get rid of those. I got a couple of tools just to keep things going. A little hand sledgehammer in case I need to demolish some rock, bigger rock, into much smaller pieces. And other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get to work on this, and let's see what I come up with as my first rock fixture. And then when we get back, in my next video, I should have the rock fixtures all done and in the tank, and then we can just let it cycle like I was saying. All right, thanks everybody. See you.